Hi everyone, it is Achia here at Booking It with Achia, and welcome to my very first weekly wrap-up. So if you did not see my January wrap-up, I made an announcement that I will, for the time being, no longer be doing monthly wrap-ups because it was becoming real daunting. I'd be procrastinating, so I'm going to do weekly wrap-ups. You'll be getting a wrap-up weekly. This week, I guess you'll be getting two because my January wrap-up should have come out a day or two ago, and then this one is coming out, now. The way I break up my weeks in my planner is it goes from Monday to Sunday, so that's how I'll be coalescing the data for the weekly wrap-up. So this weekly wrap-up is going from Monday, January 29th to Sunday, February 4th. Okay, and I'm going to go in order of when I read them because that just seems to make the most sense. Yeah. All right, so we'll kick it off with a thriller book, They All Fall Down by Rachel Housel Hall. This is a thriller book by a Black author. We follow a Black woman. She is on a plane, or she's about to get on a plane to go to this island. And she thinks that she is going to be part of this like survival game show type thing. When she gets there, she finds out that she and about 6 or 7 other people, well, 6 people have been duped, and the one thing that they all have in common is that they had the same attorney. Now, this attorney has since died. He knew he was dying, and he wanted his late partner to gather these 6 people. Where's it 7? Yeah, to gather these 7 people and have a memorial for him and send him off, right? So he gave them all different reasons why to come to this island, and then people start dropping dead. I did not know what was happening, but in the best way possible. I really enjoyed this. I ate this up. I will be making my way through Rachel Housel Hall's backlist. I had already read a book by her, and then she was gone, I believe is the title. And I remember really enjoying that. So I know sis can write. I just need to go through and continue on with her backlist. And I ended up giving that one 3.75 stars. I also read volume 8 of The Ancient Magus' Bride. This is a series that I'm continuing to read. We have a young girl whose name just flew out my head. And she ends up becoming the apprentice to this mage, and it is their I don't want to say daily adventures, but it's just their adventures as she's learning magic, and she is a slay beggy, which means that her body takes in all of the magic around her, and it's essentially too much for her, and she's a very rare specimen. So she's also kind of dealing with a little bit of a chronic illness because she's constantly tired, constantly out of energy, and I gave volume 8 4 stars. I'm looking forward to seeing where we left off because there's an interesting codependency going on between our main character and the mage that she is the apprentice of. And the way that apprenticing for a mage usually works is that at some point they do become romantically involved after a certain period of time. So hence why the title is The Ancient Magus' Bride. Like, she is expected to become his bride, and there's some element of romance, but it's interesting. It's very, very interesting, but I'm enjoying it so far. Next up, I read volume 3 of Platinum N. This is another manga. In this manga, we have... Wow, me and names are just like not a thing right now. Hold on. Mirai. There we go. Mirai was having trouble in middle school. He was essentially about to give up on life, but he's saved by an angel who gives him arrows and wings and essentially is like, you're in the running to become God. So in this manga, this takes place in a contemporary world, but in this world, God is just a human being that was chosen amongst just the regular people. They have their time span after how many ever years, and so the current God is like, hey, I'm about to retire soon, so I need you guys, the angels, to pick the next god candidates. Mirai ends up being one of 13 god candidates, but he's essentially content with using the wings and the arrows to set up life for himself so he can just continue to live. His entire family is gone. He has no interest in being God. However, there is another god candidate that is on the hunt for all the other ones. And so Mirai now has to team up with some other god candidates and put a stop to this essentially psychopath who's going around trying to hunt down the other god candidates. And I gave volume 3 5 stars. Then we have Blue Period. I only have 2 of them here with me right now, but I read volumes 3, 4, 5, and 6 of Blue Period. This is a contemporary YA manga series that follows Yatora. He unexpectedly falls in love with art and making art, and he wants to get into one of the most prestigious art schools in Japan, and this follows his journey doing that. I really love just how much detail and explanation goes into the craft of making art and making good art and everything that goes into it. And you quickly learn that while innate talent is definitely helpful and is definitely a determinant as to whether or not your art is good, it's also about the different techniques and the different tools that you utilize to make good art and make art that stands out. Then we have a graphic novel, Brooms. I took this out from the library and gobbled it up. Absolutely incredible. This is a historical fantasy graphic novel that follows a group of young witches of color, and they are participating in a broom race because they are living in a world where only magic of European ancestry is deemed as correct or right, and so the law goes around collecting children of color and trying to essentially strip them of their own magic. However, the two little girls in it, well, they're like, I guess they're like 13 or 14, Maddie and Ella, their family, their cousin is like, hey, I know a way that we can get them sent to a actual magic school that won't do this to them, but they have to race brooms, like broomsticks. And it is just following all these different characters. I really, really enjoy the representation. We have Black representation, Black and Indian representation. We also have Chicanics representation, Asian representation, specifically Chinese, and trans representation, queer representation. Like, it was just a great, excellent graphic novel. I love the story. I love the bonds between all of the different women, all the different young girls, and I wish I hadn't given it back to the library so soon, because then I could show you the artwork, which I also really enjoyed. And if you couldn't tell, I gave Brooms 5 stars. Next up, we have a cozy mystery, Pirate Vishnu. This is the second book in the Jaya Jones treasure hunt series, the first one being Artifact, and this one follows Jaya Jones, and she comes across information that one of her ancestors might have, 1, been a pirate, and 2, hidden treasure in San Francisco. And on top of that, the person that gave her this information winds up dead hours after he tells her. And so she's like, whoa, this is weird. She ends up investigating. I really enjoyed it. I'm really, really loving Gigi Pandian's writing. This is the 5th book of hers that I've read. I'm caught up in her most recent series, and then I'm making my way through the Jaya Jones series, which is a little bit older, and I gave Pirate Vishnu 3.75 stars. Next up, we have another contemporary middle grade, Front Desk by Kelly Yang. This has been on my TBR for such a long time, and I'm glad that I finally got to it because it was absolutely everything I needed and more. We follow Mia Tang. Her and her parents are immigrants. They've been in the country for, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 years, not a long time. They were previously homeless, and her parents get a job at this motel, and they are the manager managers. They're responsible for cleaning everything, running it, and Mia, when she's not in school, she runs the front desk. However, the guy that owns the hotel is absolute trash. He is awful. There's a lot of talk about discrimination, about immigration. This takes place in the 90s. It is loosely based off of the author's life and experience of coming to America and her parents having to work in these motels under these very dire and disgusting conditions. There is some tackling of anti-blackness in this book because one of the weekly, so someone who actually lives at the motel, is black, and he befriends Mia's family, and she and her parents are not discriminatory at all. Like, they're just not. But Mr. Yao, who runs the motel, is super anti-black, and so there's some discussions about that anti-blackness in Asian communities, and I just really loved this and really enjoyed it. And this is another one where I'm glad we're going to be getting more of Mia. There's at least 5 books in this series. I don't know if the 5th one is out yet, but I have already taken out the 2nd book in this series so that I can listen to it and continue on with Mia and her adventures. And I gave this one 4.5 stars. Then I read a ton of picture books, about 7 picture books. I had a writing gig where I was talking about picture books that dealt with Black history, and so I needed to refresh and re-up my vault of Black fiction, Black history picture book picks. And so yeah, I'm gonna go through the 7 that I read. Some of these I loved, some I just liked, and one was a bit mid. So we'll start with the 1619 project, Born on the Water. This starts out when we have a little girl who in school, she is tasked with drawing the flag of her home country. She is upset because she feels that she does not have a home country. She only knows about 3 generations back where her people come from. And when she tells her grandmother this, her grandmother gathers the family and is like, hey, let me tell you about our people. And she goes on and she tells about the people before they got on the slave ships, before slavery, and how her people, our people, were born on the water because they had to realize that it did not matter what tribe they were coming from, which part of Africa they were coming from. They were all essentially reborn, baptized during that Middle Passage, and this was just absolutely excellent. The poetry was excellent. Artwork was beautiful. I mean, this just felt like an absolute dream, and just look at that. And it definitely pushes back against the narrative that Black Americans don't have a home country. And so yeah, I really loved this, and I gave this one 5 stars. Then I reread The People Remember, and this one tells the story of Black Americans using the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. I really enjoyed this one. I did find that the way that the 7 principles of Kwanzaa were included were a little abrupt. I felt like it could have been done smoother, and also this one ends really abruptly, and so just there was some writing that was not the best, but the artwork is absolutely gorgeous. And what I really also appreciated about this one is how it incorporates the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, because the 7 principles of Kwanzaa are not just supposed to be talked about during Kwanzaa, they're supposed to be lived throughout the year, and they're taken from the Black community's resilience and how we have persevered through everything. It's another picture. And I gave this one 4 stars. Then we have The Undefeated. This one is one that talks about the perseverance and the survival skills of Black Americans. The artwork in this is just gorgeous, like so decadent. Look at that. Wow. And it's so realistic, and it's so just piercing, and the poetry is so simplistic but poignant, and because there's not a lot of text, you're really forced to focus on the words and connect them with the pictures. So I'm trying to find another one. Oh, this one. and I gave this one 4 stars. Then we have some library books. We have An American Story. This was actually born out of the lack of resources that American teachers are given when talking about chattel slavery in America and how that is a part of the American story. And so it is essentially told from the perspective of this teacher who wants to tell that story and that side, but is going through the motions of how do I tell such a hard story. And it's almost like a call and response. Not exactly, I don't know how best to describe it, but it's essentially, you know, how do you tell this American story and the different ways you can tell it. And what I found so incredible about this book is that it's mixed media. So the artwork is photographed clay figures as well as photographed spray paint and acrylic paint and charcoal drawings. So, and you definitely feel that this artwork is insane. Like the artist, Dare Coulter, did their job. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful artwork, and I gave this one 4 stars. Next up, we have Harlem's Little Blackbird, the story of Florence Mills. Florence Mills is an often forgotten icon of American entertainment history. There's no actual recordings of her singing, but we know how incredible she was because of the way people talk about her and the way her colleagues talked about her. And so this tells the story of her as a little girl realizing that singing can do something, and how she went from, you know, just singing with her sisters to becoming this mega star and wanting to use her voice for good and to battle the different afflictions of the Black American experience. I gave this one 3 stars, not because of the story, but because I just did not vibe with the artwork. I don't know, something about it felt very paper mache, and I just was not a fan. But I like the story, and I appreciate that this story is being told. Then we have King of Ragtime, the story of Scott Joplin, who was the king of ragtime. He took ragtime and recreated it. This is his story. I gave this one 5 stars. I loved the artwork in this one. I loved the artwork. The colors aren't too much. It feels very, and I'm not an artist, so I don't know the technical terms, but this doesn't feel painted. It feels like there was dedicated drawing and coloring that went into this. And I loved all the full page spreads. You get so many full page spreads, and I really loved it. I really did. Like, go buy this or borrow it from your library and read it to your kids, or even just read it for yourself. I gave this one 5 stars. And then we have another one that was biographical, and it is Maya's Song, which tells the story of Maya Angelou. I gave this one 5 stars, hands down. The storytelling was beautiful. There is such a respect and reverence when talking about Maya Angelou's story. I also loved the art style. It felt very scrapbook, in that we get some of the old school picture book art style in the forefront, but then in the background we get like kind of like abstract collage, and I really enjoyed it. I'm trying to find another instance where that comes through. Yeah, like here, like we have a scene happening in the foreground, but when you look at the background it becomes a little abstract and it doesn't completely make sense. But I absolutely love this 100%. I do plan on buying a copy of this one for my personal collection, as well as The King of Ragtime, and I gave Maya's Song 5 stars. Alright, that is it in terms of what I read this past week. I am reading quite a few things. I'm listening to Fox Snare by Yoon Ha Lee. That is the 3rd book in the 1,000 Worlds series, which starts with Dragon Pearl and has Tiger Honor. I think I want to say like 67% of the way through. I'm also almost halfway through Why We Play with Fire by Giselle Reason. This actually comes out on, well, by the time you see this, it'll already be out. This is a debut YA fantasy dealing with diverse mythology. I'm also reading, and of course I don't have the dust jacket on it, but this is Tales of the Celestial Kingdom. This is different stories set in the same world as Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I'm also about a third of the way through A Drop of Venom by Sajani Patel, which is an Indian-inspired retelling of the Medusa myth. And then I'm also rereading, again, another one. When I read the books, I take off the dust jacket if it's a hardcover, but I'm rereading The Vanishing Half. So yeah, that is where I'm at in terms of my reading. Hopefully, in my next wrap-up, I will be able to talk about, well, The Vanishing Half is a book club book, and we're only supposed to read up until halfway, and then our next meeting is like towards the end of the month, and then we finish it. So this one I probably won't be talking about in the next weekly wrap-up, but these three, as well as Fox Snare, I do plan on finishing up this week, so I can tell you about them in the next weekly wrap-up. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified every time I release a new video. Make sure to like, comment down below, what did you read in the past week that really surprised you or caught your attention. Follow me on all of my socials. Check out my book club's Discord, my Pango book storefront, as well as my Etsy shop, and I will see you in another video. Bye!
Showing. I ain't living for the moment. I see what's mine and I want it. Hungry like a Pac-Man. I'm Bruce Wayne and Batman. I'm Naruto with a Hanzo. Got a sharp mind like I'm Einstein. Plus I'm copywriting, so it's all mine. Check it for me, I'm in the sky.